Hey y'all. As a very highly requested video, I'm here with my literature review of Sister Souljah's No Disrespect. Now, this is something new that I'm trying with the Writers Rap Collective. There are particular books that I love to critically analyze, particularly being storytelling books. They can range between poetry, autobiography, novels, you name it. But I just want to share some of my notes and maybe we could discuss together. Come on. I think one of my favorite parts of this book particularly is the storytelling component that is very loud. She uses the accounts of like 7 characters, I believe. It's about 7 or 8 chapters. And these are people that are in her direct circle: mother, friends, people that she has built with in community, people that she meets on the way. And I think that's really, really important. There's something that we can learn from everybody, and we should never underestimate the value of any connection. And that is something that I talk heavily about. And yeah, so let's jump right into it. So this book covers a big aspect of intersectionality, right? Between gender, race, sexual identity, and even socioeconomics. The storytelling component that I was speaking about is like very realistic, and it's like super captivating. It really talks about, and this is based in the 90s. So this is like reflective of the plight of Black America at this time in the 1990s. And then like one of the parts that I picked up heavily was the way that it speaks to the spiritual warfare happening on our people. I feel like in this book, Sister Souljah is like it's like almost like a coming of age book as well. It is an autobiography, so she's talking from her own experience, her own path. And what you see, a big part of it is the spiritual aspect that she's trying to understand, because she has like this undying hope of what the community can be if we are. So for like chapter 1, it starts with basically like an introduction to her mother. It's called Mother, so she kind of provides like a historical background, and like the beginning just has you like, huh? Like what? And then of course it's layered out. It's almost like a circular narrative in a way, where she's letting us know what's going on right now as it is right now. But then while you keep reading, it serves like chronologically, things happen chronologically. So it's weird. It was like it started off with circular and then it went linear. That's the caveat of being a writer. It's all about what you want it to be, right? I feel like, particularly in this chapter, she talks a lot about the transitioning. I feel like this just lays the foundation for readers to foresee. I think it is just building the foundation for the build up, the transition that we are expected to see in the book, right? So like a big part that I felt that she explained this book was like, in this chapter was basically like, is there such thing as a poor example of something? Or are all examples just worthy of learning from? And I think that's the part that she really was trying to get her readers to understand, because now that can nicely walk us into these different avenues of accounts to different people and the experiences of what they teach her and what they fail to teach her. She in this chapter, she's learning a lot about what it is to be a woman. I feel like in a lot of ways, Sister Souljah is using the mother first chapter called Mother to basically just lay down what we are used to, what we are familiar to. Like for instance, she kind of takes like this monologue and talks about the role that welfare plays in the Black community, right? on page 13, the assumption of welfare users, and I think particularly this is like an interpretation, and it was very powerful because it kind of tells you where you at instead of you trying to fake it till you make it. That's also a big part that she talks about in this chapter. And then we talk about things like religion, faith, the idea of God in the Black community. Then chapter 2, she just hits us with a blow. Like, yo, it was just like, that's how I felt reading it. Because I felt like Nathan, I wasn't ready for a Nathan story. But I do believe that a Nathan story is very important simply because we never know what someone is dealing with. And sometimes you meet people not to always engage in them on a romantic level. You know, I remember seeing a meme one time and it was like, just because you and somebody have good chemistry doesn't mean you should start a family. Maybe you should open up a taco truck. And like, you know, and it just makes you think about that. But I do think that Nathan's chapter talks a lot about judgment, just like certain themes to throw out there. Religion again. In this particular chapter, it really made me think about whether or not we are responsible for our partner's traumas, or should we carry and hold space for our partner when it comes to their traumas. Because I feel like in this chapter, Sister Souljah does a lot of comparing the Black man struggle to the Black woman struggle, and it made me just think what we need to have is more empathy to be able to progress with the way that we nurture each other. So to a certain degree, I do think that we should take it on as our own responsibility, but I do think it needs to be done in moderation, like anything. And I'm curious to know what other people think about that. So let me know. Now, in my opinion, I feel like, spoiler alert, Nikki was just doing a lot of what we would call today and just gold digger. But I don't believe she was a gold digger. I believe that in a lot of ways she was just an opportunist. Like once we dived into her story particularly, I had an aha moment where it was like, okay, this is how someone is inadvertently reacting or impacted on when it comes to their trauma. Because Nikki had her own walks in her childhood that resulted to why she was moving and acting the way she was and portraying the types of activities and behaviors that she was. And it made you just think twice about, again, what it is, like what womanhood really truly consists of. It's like almost we all wear our adversities different. And particularly, I just really feel like Nikki was a great chapter to talk about representation and why representation matters. You know, Sister Souljah is coming from a woman of the community. You know, appearances, looks, certain things just didn't matter to her. She was very in tune to her soul's purpose. But Nikki came about in her college years and just reminded her of the ways that she wasn't what she wasn't exposed to as a young girl, and there was a real friendship built within that. Of course, it didn't last long, I don't think, because of course you could learn a lot from someone, but that's another thing. I think that's really what it was. It was just about learning from someone. You don't have to agree with it, but it's about learning from them, because we did not agree with a lot of the things that Nikki was doing. If you read it, then you read it. Nikki, girl, you bugging. Now, I think after Nikki, the whole book will have you, I kid you not, but I feel like after Nikki, it was when she really turned it up, because she took after a lot of things. She watched Nikki and applied what she was exposed to with Nikki. Because then how does she enter, like, we attract what we are. And how does she attract a person like Joseph? Because Joseph was like, seriously, dude? But I feel like in that chapter really nicely exemplifies like when you break your own vows or lower your standards, and refrain from your own expectations, it could just really bring down the experience. Just really brings down the experience. That's what I learned from that book. And I learned that you don't never change your status. You don't never change your standards. All right? Joseph will teach you that. I'm telling y'all, go read. If you don't want to read the book, just read. Now. If you really want to read a book that talks a lot about self-pleasure, and when you don't have self-pleasure in moderation, I think Mona's chapter is a great book, a great chapter to reference. Because personally, I feel like that, and a lot of people are not gonna agree with me, but I feel like Sister Souljah was head on with what she was trying to get Mona to understand and to see. I think there was a lot of unaddressed trauma in her past regarding men, because it just seemed like Mona was very just yuck about men, just completely yuck about men. And I don't remember them talking a lot about her father or any of the relationships with men. I remember they just said like she would just always just exemplify hate. And like I have definitely found myself being how do you say it? Being sought out by a same-sex person, you know. When that isn't your thing, you can definitely be influenced to it, and you find yourself into something that you really aren't into. It's just, you know, it's kind of like you do what you do. You do what you know, and you stay away from what you don't know. So, for instance, I could just see that, you know, Mona spent more time hanging around girls than she spent with guys. For a lot of different reasons. I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil this book. I want y'all to read it, but I just want to tell y'all, like, when it's some of the best parts, Mona had me like, child, back up. Now, I can't believe I really did a chapter by chapter review, but that's how good this book was. Like, I literally had to address so many different things in my notes. Like, I actually have notes here, y'all. And Chance's chapter talks about healing on all levels. She used a man because sometimes that's what we gotta do. We gotta use romantic relationships and romance to get people to pay attention and listen. So she used it with this chapter with Chance, because this chapter was just about healing, child. It was healing. The things that he did was just, she had to acknowledge where she allowed herself to slip through. And I think, especially after a bad relationship, everybody has to do that. You gotta be real with yourself and surrender, child. And I feel like Chance's chapter speaks to a girl in her soft era today. Anybody would love. And not for nothing, as I was reading this, my notes, I see an annotation here, right? For page 258. I don't know what exactly was there, but I asked myself, why do people prioritize self in the movement? They go from being all about the movement to then being corrupt. And I'm trying to understand that, and I think I just answered my own question. But I'm curious. That was a big takeaway that I had in this book. Because I've seen that with myself. You give, when you're a person of the people, you give unrelentlessly, and you choose other things over you, and it almost feels like a very selfless act, to the point when we do choose ourselves, it seems corrupt. Why is that? Or you're a sellout. Why is that? Can we someone? And there you have it, folks. Our first literature review by me, KP, Kid Intellectual. This is the first of many. This is an extension of Writers Collective that I started. It is called Writers Rock Collective. We are based on Instagram. We get together monthly and have book sessions, all things bookish. It's networking hours. It's, you know, soft book launches. It's book fairs. All things bookish. I invite you to come join us. We will be at the Poets House February 25th on at 2 p.m. I invite you to come out. There will be some local authors with us. So I invite you. It's a vibe. The Poet's House is known for its great, crazy view, which is a writer's inspiration. We know it. Pull up. And I hope that you are enjoying this. Give me some comments down below if you like it. Rock with it. Subscribe and follow. Peace.